There we go. So that's our generic intro until we get the real deal going here. Building this thing up, nothing like letting progress make progress instead of letting perfection get in the way of it. So we're here for the Lazy Lab Hunting Club podcast. This is episode 5, and today we're talking about the veteran pivot. So this will be for anyone that is familiar with my previous work with the Vet Pivot podcast. This is an extension of that, and coming into the Lazy Lab world, how can we help veterans with understanding what that pivot looks like, right? So with me today, I got Michael Burris, David, or DJ Desrosiers, as I know him, as most of you all know him, but he's got David up there. And then we got Colin Roof with us, recently retired. Thank you, Colin, for your service, and congratulations on the retirement. So, gentlemen, we're going to talk about the veteran pivot, and it's exciting stuff. It's an exciting, wild time in your career when you get to the very end of whatever that service looks like, and you're like, okay, enough's enough. I'm walking away. It's time for me. I'm punching. I'm out. Whatever you want to call it. It is definitely an exciting time, but it's also a scary time. Right? It's like, holy smokes!
Yes, it is. Yeah.
What am I going to do with myself? Once you get over the initial excitement of, hey, I don't have to, I won't have anyone to answer. I don't have to put the uniform on anymore. I won't have to do the silly games that you have to do in the military to be in the military, right? And then all of a sudden reality sets in, and it's like, okay, I got to execute this plan I put together. Or if you didn't put a plan together, I got to create a plan real quick. Don't panic, but you probably should have one at least 6 months prior, if not well before that. But if you don't, no big deal. We're here to help. So, around the room, let's just start with our entrance stories, because I think that's always a good place to start. Like, did you intend on serving a full 20? Did you intend on doing one, assignment and then getting out? Like, what was your entrance story, and how did you kind of formulate that plan? At what point did you come up with a plan to get out? So we'll start with DJ. How about that? Let's start with DJ.
So funny enough, my story for entering the military is it's quite a funny one. I was in college, mechanical and electrical engineering double major. Yeah. Went rollerblading during the summer with some friends down at the pier down in Port Huron, Michigan. Ran into my buddy who's a recruiter, asked me to go ahead and take the ASVAB just to help him out. Came a nuke, told him not to tell my parents because they wanted me to go in the military. Well, I come home one day from school. It's a Friday afternoon. There's a lot of cars at my house. This is weird, because there's usually not a lot of cars at my house. I get there, and there's a cake. It says, "Congratulations, DJ," has the Navy emblem on it. So, needless to say, my family friend told my parents. They threw me a surprise going away party, and had a bunch of gifts, had cake. The cake sold me on it. Next thing you know, I'm going out to boot camp. So it's kind of a
DJ,
unique.
I'm having a hard time seeing you on the rollerblades, my man.
That was a lot skinnier version of me.
That's the part. Sorry, it's a cool story. It's just the part I got hung up on was that part at the very beginning. Did you have the full rollerblade get up? Like, you had the wrist guards and the knee pads and everything? Like,
oh yeah. If you do something, you do it 100%, right? This is the early 2000s, late 90s. I mean, yeah, that's how we rocked it back then. That's 20 years ago.
Yeah, he's got all the PPE on. He's born for the Navy.
He was ready for it, right? When I was in Belgium, there was a guy. He was in the Italian military, right? Every day at lunch, I'd be walking over to the gym to get some weightlifting in, and you'd see this guy, and he's got like one of those mesh tank tops on and short like Ranger panties, and he's rollerblading around base. But this wasn't like the 90s, early 2000s. This was like 2010. So it's like the rollerblade craze was like well gone. Like people weren't there yet, or anymore, I should say. But that's cool. Okay, so rollerblading led to the Navy. That is an interesting story.
Oh yeah,
was your plan to do one or all, like a full 20, or was your plan to do like initially?
So to be honest with you, I knew nothing about the military going in, right? I went day one going, okay, well, I'll figure this out as I go along.
Right.
Which makes for quite an exhilarating life if you think about it, not having no idea what's in store for you. But after 3 years, I knew I loved what I did. I was a submariner. I absolutely enjoyed it. Fast forward, I get injured. 9 surgeries later, I'm out at 6 years. So I got told about 5 months. Hey, you got about 5 months left to start getting things ready. So it was a mad dash in that 5 months to kind of figure out, okay, what does my new life look like? What do I need to do to prepare for it? And it all started with just asking everybody I knew, whether they've been out for 20 years, 40 years, or been recently out, hey, what do I need to do? Trying to build that profile of knowledge to go, okay, now that I got all this input from everybody, how does that apply to my life? Because everybody's pivot is going to look uniquely different based on your skills and based on your personality.
That's right.
And hey, DJ, I'm getting a little bit of an echo on your side. I don't know if your volume's up too high on the computer or what that is. We just wanted to give a heads up. In case, I don't want the listeners to think that they're crazy or something. Like we
Is this better? So. I turned the volume down quite a bit. Or do you still hear it?
Go again. Say rollerblading forever.
Rollerblade forever.
Yeah, no, it's a little bit better, but there's still a little bit of an echo, just a little bit. And while he's figuring that out, we'll go to our other buddy. He's got a little bit of sound going on, but he's traveling for us right now. We're having a little bit of a sketchy travel day, so we got Michael Burris with us.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me, first of all. My name is Michael Burris. I'm a board member of Lazy Labs Hunting Club, and served in the United States Navy as a surface warfare officer for 7 years. My story about going into the military was a little bit more traditional, I would say. I knew I wanted to go in from a very, very young age. And then 9/11 happened. I watched it in my 8th grade English class and said, you know what, I'm going to commit. This is what I'm going to do. After that, I watched Top Gun way too many times and decided I wanted to be a naval aviator. And I'm originally from Charleston, South Carolina, so we had a really great option for military college right there in Charleston, and there's the Citadel. And I went to the Citadel, was a business administration major, naval ROTC scholarship, and commissioned when I graduated, and was selected to go to flight school in Pensacola. Went to flight school, showed up in September of 2010. And very, very soon after I showed up, we had the sequestration and reduction in force that basically ended my flying career before it ever began, along with about 300 other student naval aviators. I was given a choice to get out of the Navy scot-free before my severance package, or to stay in and go be a surface warfare officer. And I thought to myself, I said, you know what? I joined the Navy to serve. I didn't join the Navy just to fly, and this is the hand that I've been dealt, and I'm going to play it. So I was assigned to the USS Gettysburg, where I met Colin Root, who checked the day after me and became one of my best friends in the world, and it was a groomsman at my wedding. And I thank God every day for that relationship that I would not have had if I was a pilot. Served 2.5 years on the Gettysburg as the ordnance officer and BBSS officer. And then I got a wild hair and said, you know what, I'm not going to be a pilot. Maybe I should go try to be a Navy SEAL. And so our captain at the time, Brad Cooper, who's now Vice Admiral Cooper, basically said, hey, we're going to go send you to I got orders to a admiral staff in Little Creek. Did the SEAL SWIX Ascension program. I was a ping on 03, and I was the oldest guy there. It was kind of the first time in my life I was ever the old guy. And there was a one officer slot, and I did not get it. And so I was pretty bummed about that. And at that point in time, I'd met my 4 years of service, and I thought that, hey, I might get out now. I knew I wanted to get out. I did not want to do 20. I didn't want to do 20 years. I just wanted to do my 20s in the Navy. And then I said, you know what? I feel like I have some more to give. There are things that I want to do. I grew up on the water. I grew up around small boats. And so I kind of clawed at the detailers and eventually found a role to be the officer in charge of explosive ordnance disposals special boat unit, and out of Coronado. And it was a total timing worked in my favor. I moved out to Coronado for 2.5 years. I ran this unit. Did a lot with obviously EOD, Marine Recon, MARSOC, a little bit with SWIC, a little bit with the SEALs. Had an amazing time at Coronado. Obviously, if anybody's ever been there or been stationed there, is my opinion, it is the best to be stationed in the United States military. I know
It's beautiful out there.
It's awesome. It's awesome. And so anyway, but to get to my exit strategy, again, I knew I wanted to get out, and I knew I wanted to go get my MBA, and I knew I had my GI Bill, and I did 7 years, and I got back my last deployment in May of 2016. We were in Djibouti, Africa, and I said, okay, it's time to kind of get in the mindset of the exit. And I knew I wanted to go into real estate, specifically multifamily real estate. And there were really 3 schools: the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, Texas, the University of Texas Austin, and Columbia Business School that really had great real estate programs. And being from South Carolina and getting married 10 days after I got out of the Navy, I decided that UNC would be the best option. So I applied and got in December of 2016. So my exit story is pretty interesting. I got out of the Navy June 1st. I got married in Charleston June 10th. I went on my honeymoon, and my butt was in my seat at North Carolina starting business school July 7th. So all very, very quickly. But I'm a habitual planner, so I had everything planned out to the day. And that's my biggest recommendation to folks who are looking to get out, who know they're going to get out. Make sure you're planning a couple, at least a year in advance, and know what you want to do, and really put the effort into it, because it's all going to come down on you. Don't rely on a TAP program. Don't rely on, you're a veteran, doors are going to open. There's a lot. Yes, that's true to a degree, but you're going to have to put in a lot of work and make sure that you're taking care of yourself to get where you want to go. And so that's my story. I've graduated from Carolina in 2019, worked for a large multifamily company in Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina right now. And, I found success in that. And so, lots to share on that coming up in the podcast, but that's my story.
That's so two ends of the spectrum, right? So DJ being forced out and having to come up with a plan quick, and Michael having that plan, basically every step of the way is creating that exit strategy didn't want to be in. And that it really does paint a picture for both sides. That's really where they come from. That's those that don't necessarily want to get out, but aren't given a choice. And then you have those that know that they're going to get out eventually and are working on that plan gradually as they do that. It can be tough. There are other stories as well. Like if we were to put people into buckets, there are those who, they want to get out, but they also don't have a plan. They just know they don't want to do what they're doing currently. And then you have those that, they want to do the whole thing, and then they want to go and continue to do service as a civilian. There's a couple different tranches that you can put folks into. But interesting that between the two of you, we have two different ends of the spectrum on exit plans, right? So it gets us to Colin Roof, and Colin is newly retired. So congratulations again. I know we did it on the intro, but go ahead and tell us, your service as far as why you joined, and then what was your strategy as far as exit plan.
Yes, absolutely. So first off, thank you, Matt, for having me on the podcast. This is my first podcast.
All right.
My wife is very proud of me as somebody who does podcasts and things like that all of the time. So I'll do my best to live up to her standards. I'm actually sitting in her office right now. So she's got this whole really great setup to do all of her live streaming and all of that stuff. So we were well set up, ready to go, thanks to her. But thank you again, really, for having me on the show. It's an honor to get on here and to really speak some good truth to people who are transitioning out of the service. I hope that we really touch on a lot of good topics. I know that I've got some good experiences as a recently retired person that I can hopefully provide and kind of shed some light and provide some help for those transitioning out. So really quick, I retired from 20 years of service. I started out as an enlisted nuclear machinist mate submarines, did that for about 10 years. Got picked up surface warfare officer, as Mike says, served with him for a few years. And then I went on to become an engineering duty officer. So I spent the last few years in the Navy doing acquisitions. I'm an engineer by education and licensure. So I went to Naval Postgraduate School. I got my master's in ME and got my license there as well. And I was, for the longest time, pretty much at least the second half of my career, my plan was to pursue a career in engineering and project management when I got out of the Navy, period. And so we ended up here in Mobile, Alabama. I worked on the Littoral Combat Ship project for about 3 years. And it was towards the end, actually, when things really started heating up and I was really getting into the retirement process, is when I made a very bold pivot in a completely different direction and decide to go with entrepreneurship is not quite what I would call it more of like pseudo entrepreneurship, because I decided to get into franchising. I felt like franchising was really the best model for myself and my wife, who's my business partner, Kayla, moving forward after the service. We wanted something different. We wanted a different challenges, a newfound set of freedoms and flexibility and everything that comes along with it. And frankly, I'll tell you, towards the end, I mean, this was really, we didn't decide to really pull the trigger on this until, definitely less than 6 months out. I mean, I had resumes and everything ready to go. We had a lot of the big companies here in the Mobile area. And I was also looking at potential job opportunities through the government as well. And then we just decided, nope, we're going to do franchising. And so we really started going down that rabbit hole and researching what we felt like would be the best franchise to bring to our area. And we think we hit a slam dunk. And now we're in the beginning processes of that. So I have not permitted
it. Are you allowed to tell us?
Oh yeah, Crumble Cookies. Crumble Cookies.
There you go.
CRUMBL. Look them up, crumblecookies.com. It's a new gourmet cookie franchise. I know it's crazy, to think that, given my background for the last 20 years of the Navy, I would be getting into cookies coming out of the Navy. But as Matt, as you said, everybody has a very, very unique pivot coming out.
Yeah.
And the thing that I can tell you and the listeners is have an open mind about everything, period.
Yeah.
Don't rule anything out because you don't you don't think you're best suited for it or you're not comfortable with it. Just have an open mind to possibilities, and you'd be surprised at the opportunities that you can have coming out. So we're very excited about it. We think it's going to be just an absolute slam dunk in this area. We're opening our first store in September. And we hope to have 2 more stores opened up within, the next year and a half, and then just kind of going from there. So,
well, congratulations. Very exciting stuff. And you're right. I mean, it is an unexpected pivot, right? To go from someone with such a great background in education to entrepreneurship. But I look at it as, being an entrepreneur is you see a lot of veterans, successful entrepreneurs, right? Because it's a chance for you to be, your own commander. It's essentially what you do, right? You're standing up your own unit. You don't have to answer, but you are responsible for everything that goes into that. And that sense of problem solving and responsibility, that accountability to the people that end up being your employees, it really ties well into the foundations that you got while you were serving and wearing the uniform, right? So this is why you see veterans do so well, because you're creating that team environment, you're creating that culture, you're creating, and you end up recreating some of that stuff that you learned in the military gets recreated in the business that you make. So you tie that in, it becomes a recipe for success, if you will. Right. So very exciting stuff. Congratulations, you and the wife. I'm rooting for you. I hope
I appreciate it.
If I'm ever in Mobile, I'm a crumble cookie guy. I'll be there. Okay.
There you go. I like to compare it to the last project I worked on at Austal. I worked on Littoral Combat Ship post delivery, and in that project, every day was a new problem to solve. And so, depending on your outlook on things in life, I happen to like that sort of thing. It just sort of kept me on my toes, and I kind of compare this new business venture to my last project in the Navy. Every single day is a new problem to solve. And it's a new problem that I have no education on. So I have to go and review something and read something and learn up, before I can make an educated decision to solve this problem, and then the next day I get to do it all again. And when you keep doing that over time, I think you would be amazed at the transformation that happens and how much experience and knowledge that you gain, over that time. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, and you're going to figure it out as you go too, right? You're definitely going to, you guys are going to make mistakes, you're going to screw up, and when it's all on you, like you learn from those mistakes. I know that's how I am. I am not a very good like traditional learner, which I'm going to talk about my experience here in a second, just to add to the room. But I'm not a good traditional learner, but I'm really good at learning from like mistakes. Don't make the mistake one time and then move on, like never make that same mistake again. So, I know we have some technical difficulties with Mike. He dropped. I'll keep an eye on to see if he joins back in. But just talking about my experience real quick. I know you three were Navy veterans. I'm the lone Air Force guy, lone airman here, flying solo. But I joined. My story is kind of interesting in the sense that when I joined, I was out of options. I was a college dropout. I did not have a lot going for me. Life was kicking my butt a little bit, sleeping in my car, and I walked in the recruiter station, and I just happened to be the first door on the right was the Air Force. Could have been anybody. I really wasn't picky. Didn't know a lot about the military. Just knew that was a place I could get a job and get my life back on track. And lo and behold, 12 days later, I left for basic training. And the one thing that my dad told me before I left was, "Hey, don't screw this up." He might have used different language, but that was the gist of what he was saying, right? And I took that to heart. I really put everything I had into that, because when you get yourself into a place where I was, like when you have a roof over your head now and you're getting 3 meals a day, and you get, all those things that we kind of take for granted. Like when you have those things, you just want to pay it forward and work hard. So I served like 12 years, not like 12 and a half years in the Air Force. And it took me a while to kind of get over the I owe the Air Force mentality and to start working on my plan. So I didn't really have one until I got to about the 8-year mark. And that's when I started really taking school seriously, aggressively pursuing my bachelor's degree in business administration. I double majored in project management. I graduated that as my wife was delivering our second daughter, literally in the labor and delivery room, sending off my final assignment, because 2 weeks later I was starting grad school, and I got my master's in IT project management. I did some executive education at MIT on blockchain technology. So I have a lot of traditional schooling, even though I'm not a very good traditional student and never have been. And I did those things to really set myself up for a quick pivot into civilian life, so I can move back closer to my parents and family in New Jersey. And when I did that, I had no lapse in service. So my last day of service was July 25th of 2019. My first day of work at the company I'm with now was July 8th of 2019. So I actually have an overlap. It's the dream scenario that they talk about. Now, there are things that I have to tell the listener, right? Is number one, a lot of that stuff was based on my own research, my own hustle, my own effort, and going and actively seeking good mentors, right? And I think that that's something that you heard DJ talk about. That's something you've heard Colin talk about. Something you heard Mike talk about is if you sit there and your plan is, I'll get what I need to know out of TAP, or I'll get what I need to know from people that are still in, like, you're wrong. Okay, I'm just going to tell you that now. You're setting yourself up for failure. Right? You have to do some of your own research. Not saying you can't supplement with that information, but you got to do some of your own research and figure out what it is you want to do. What do you want to be when you're not, an enlisted or an officer, soldier, sailor, Marine, coastie, whatever. Right? That's what do you want to be? That's the first question you have to ask yourself, and you have to be prepared for that answer to change. Right? Because there's a very good percentage of folks that leave the military And that first thing that they do when they leave the military is not the thing that they want to do. And they realize it once they get into it.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have, some adaptability there, some flexibility. You can't be rigid and say, I'm just going to do this, because you don't know that, right? Case in point, Colin, you wanted to be a project manager and an engineer, and now you're an entrepreneur, right?
Absolutely.
DJ, I'm sure you have a similar story, and I know that you have businesses and you wear multiple hats as well. So we should probably talk and spend a little bit of time on, the experience and the education and how that played a part in our transition, and how that lent itself to flexibility in the roles that we took on or decided to take on.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you touched on the area of mentors, because I cannot stress enough how important it is to have a mentor, just somebody to talk your ideas out with. Because the one thing that every single veteran has in common transitioning out of service is we are all going through some level of anxiety and fear coming out, especially the ones who have been in for a long time. Those of us retired or whatever. So you don't know what you're getting into when you get out. And then you start throwing in, what am I going to do? How am I going to, provide for the family? Because that's kind of what it all boils down to at the end of the day. Is it's been so easy to be able to provide for your family the entire time that you've been in. And, I'm married, I've got 3 kids. So obviously that was at the forefront of all of my planning, was how am I going to provide for my 3 children? Our house and everything. You have to have somebody that you can talk to that can help you believe that you can do what you're thinking about or pursuing as your pivot when you get out. If you don't, I just think it becomes a lot harder to make that transition if you don't have people that you can talk to, that can be your teammate, that can cheer you on, encourage you, at a minimum. And then if it's somebody who's got experience and knowledge in that area, that's obviously helps even more. But if all you're listening to is that little voice in your head that's saying, you can't do this, you should re-enlist, or you should stay in longer, or whatever, when you know that that's not what you want to do, you may be missing out on a great opportunity. You got to have somebody to talk to.
Yeah. You definitely have to have folks to sound off against, right? It is extremely important. I can tell you now that you should have a couple, right? You should have someone who is there to kind of coach you through, how do I market myself? How do I put myself out there and make myself competitive with other candidates for jobs, or whatever that avenue is that you're pursuing, right? You should have someone that's coaching you in that world. You should also have someone that's coaching you in the industry you're trying to go into, maybe multiple people. So if you want to get into like finance, you should have folks in finance that are helping you understand that area, right? That area of operations. You don't know that right now. So you obviously want to get intel from people that are in that field, right? And not just
make
folks
sure
in
you get
school.
Diverse input. I mean, that's one thing that I notice with a lot of people when they're transitioning out of the military. It ends up being an echo chamber, because you surround yourself with like-minded people. You surround yourself with the same career path, usually, because our the people we hang out with have the same job that we have, and they tend to go in one direction, right? Don't be afraid to go and talk to people in different sectors. You got to get different views, because if you have 10 people and they're telling you the exact same thing, that's probably, more likely it might be the best situation for you. But really what you got to ask yourself, did I get enough diverse input to make the correct path for me? So if you get a lot of people telling you, hey, the exact same thing, you need to get your input array and widen it.
Absolutely.
Get a bigger net out there. Cast a bigger net.
Yep.
I couldn't agree more, DJ. That's a really good point, because you're right. You hit on a key point there, which is like, okay, we all do the same job. So let's say, like, when I first went into the military, I was cable and antenna systems guy. We climbed antenna towers. We went underground and spliced cable, fiber cable, copper cable. And yet, like, everyone talks about, oh, I'm just going to go work for Verizon, or I'll go work for AT&T, or I'll go, over to the Middle East as a contractor and do the work over there. It's always the same conversation about what you're going to do next. And it always ends up being that thing that you're doing while you're in the military. And if you if you just take a step back and think about that for just a quick second, a lot of people leave the military, don't want to do the things they did in the military, right? It's like one of the big things that is a point of failure for folks to leave is they go right into whatever it was they were doing while they were in uniform, without realizing or taking the time to think, like, this is an opportunity for me to rebrand myself, to remarket myself, and figure out, like, what do I really want to do? If you could go back to MEPS and sit down with the job counselor and pick a new job in the military, would you still pick the one that you were doing? Or would you pick something different? Right. And that's the way to think about it is, okay, well, essentially I have an opportunity to pick a new job. I could do anything I want. The world is my oyster, right? I could do anything I want. Anything. Why would you pick, or why would you just instantaneously pick the same thing that you're doing while you're wearing uniform without giving yourself the opportunity to explore other options?
Yeah, absolutely.
But, to be able to explore those other options, for those who are watching that are either right out of boot camp, halfway through their career, getting towards the end of the career, your transition out of the military life starts the day you join the military.
Yes.
So when everybody is going out having fun, don't get me wrong, going out and having fun is a key part of the military, right? Because you got to get those stressors out. You got to release that. But you also have to
let off some steam, man.
That's right. But you still have to start planning. I mean,
yeah.
There's so many opportunities out there to get, traditional education while you're in. And it's not just a degree. You can go and get certificates. I was an electrician on a submarine. I walked out with my journeyman's card. Those options are out there. You have to seek them, though. They're not going to be dropped on your lap and forced to go down that path. You have to take the initiative to go ahead and say, okay, one day this isn't going to be here. What am I going to do? How am I going to make life easier on me?
Yeah.
And then it continues on even when you get out. So we have 1, 2, 3 out of the 4 guests today, after they got out of the military, continued that secondary education.
Yeah.
So if you get out, you get a job. That's not the end of the world. Don't sink right back into it. If you don't like it, better yourself.
Yeah.
And find a way to get to where you want to be, whatever that is. I mean, heck, you look at my degree portfolio, I have 5 degrees, and I'm doing something completely different than all 5 of my degrees.
Yeah.
Why? Because I say, oh, I really want to do this. Maybe not. Okay, what about this? Oh, no, this is it. This is the last time I'm going back to school. I promise. I'm telling my wife this. You know what? I went back one more time. So
it's hilarious.
But at the end of the day, you got to find out what's best. I say for you, but it's really for your family unit and your situation.
There's a thing that I used to say with Vet Pivot, which was you have to make a successful transition out of the military. There are 3 things that you have to do. You have to lead in 3 different areas of your life, and typically it's sequential, although 1 and 2 can inverse a little bit depending on how you see things, right? You have to lead yourself, because if you can't lead yourself, you can't lead anyone else, right? So this is the very first thing. Lead yourself lends itself to education, preparation, financial preparedness, like all these things that you have to have in order to make a successful transition out of the military. These are boxes you should be checking, not like tap in and out processing checklists. This is like life boxes you should be checking, right? So that's lead yourself. And it's very important. That includes like your health, mental health, physical health, all that stuff has to be taken care of as well, because otherwise you're not prepared to do the next step, which is lead your family. And leading your family is like the biggest next step that you can go to, because if you take care of yourself, you're already 1 foot in the door of leading your family. And number 2 would be like bringing your whole self to whatever it is you go into next. If your heart's not in it, you're not going to be able to lead yourself in that area, which means you're not effectively leading your family. And then the last part would be lead within your community or finding your community, right? That's the hardest one. And that's the one that really trips up a lot of veterans is, okay, I'm out now. And the people that are still in, like that is just going. And I've said this so many times on podcasts before, but it's not like they forgot about you. It's not like they don't care about you or they're not your friend. It's just like you can remember and imagine being in their boots still. Like you're like the military is just pushing you, right? You're just going on to the next assignment, the deployment, whatever it is. And you just kind of are focused like with the blinders on whatever the military is giving you to deal with. And so right around that 6-month mark, you start to see friends drop off. You start to see the communication with the old unit go away a little bit. And it puts veterans in a bad place because mentally you're thinking, well, those guys don't care about me anymore, right? I'm being left behind. They don't accept me because I got out. There's all these thoughts that go through your head, this isolationism that happens. And that community piece becomes critical to your continued development as a person. You have to have that. Recently I started doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu, right? Just looking for a community in my local community. And what I've found is like a huge collection of veterans of all branches of service that I never would have stumbled across otherwise. And it's been reinvigorating, right? That in the sense, and I wasn't really lost for community. I have church, I have friends like in the area, but it's like that hidden gem of a community that I stumbled across from like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing that I found these guys and we all have this one thing in common and we're driving towards a goal, right? So those 3 areas are critical to the success of anybody's transition. I'll pause there. Pause there because I have said a lot.
Well, you touched on the community part, and neither Kayla and I are from Fairhope, Alabama, where we live now, just across the bay from Mobile, where I worked. We have no family here. We're not from here. No family anywhere near this area. Never lived in Alabama, for that matter. And here we are at the option to retire at 20 years and live in Fairhope, Alabama. And we could not imagine living anywhere else other than Fairhope, Alabama. We absolutely love it here. Of all the places that, I've been stationed in the last 20 years, we have felt more at home here. And frankly, I attribute that to our level of involvement in the community. So this is where we, when we went to church, we've always gone to church wherever we lived, but this is where we really kind of stepped it up a notch and tried to get involved a little bit more. So we started going to small groups on Wednesday, and now we found ourselves actually leading a small group. I've got 2 boys, an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old. So they started coming up and getting involved in sports. And I started coaching my older son in his team in baseball last year. And as far as like extracurricular things to do, I can't imagine myself doing anything else. It is literally some of the most fun I have ever had. But the icing on the cake is that it has provided us this tremendous opportunity to really plug in and plant our roots in this community. And as that started happening more and more, we felt more and more at home here. Like we literally could not imagine living anywhere else.
Yeah.
I certainly didn't want to have to stay in and move on to, wherever the next tour was going to be, probably DC. This was it. And we just got to a point where for us, we're like, there is no other option. And luckily I was eligible to retire at the end of this tour, made a little extension, put the retirement papers in, said, that's it. We're done.
Yeah.
So, and then we just kind of figured it out from there,
That community piece is really important, but I will say, if we backtrack just for a second, like finding home after like that could be a tricky piece of the transition, right?
Absolutely.
Is finding home, right? Colin, you were lucky enough to land in a place where you and your wife loved it, right? Not every veteran is that successful
Very true.
in finding home right out of the service, right? And that can be difficult because if it doesn't feel like home, you're gonna have a hard time connecting with the community, and that's going to alienate you more, and you're going to feel more lost and more isolated, right? So that that piece can be difficult. DJ, where'd you land after service? Did you go back home? Did you go somewhere that you just wanted? Did you throw a dart at a map and go there?
So when we got out, my wife was pregnant with our first boy. The deal was that we'd move to where we are right now, Clemson, South Carolina, for a couple of years. After that, move back to Michigan, where I'm from. Well, fast forward, I think I've been here now 14 years, and we haven't moved back to Michigan yet. And it's kind of funny because for the first 10 years, this hasn't felt like home at all. I almost felt like a foreigner, right? But to Colin's point, you have to be open to the community around you. You have to inject yourself in the community by sitting back and waiting for somebody to pull you in. That's not going to happen. You have to be open-minded to go put yourself on a limb, be vulnerable, and be the community. I mean, once I started coaching, which is funny, this is our team's hat, our baseball team's hat. I wore that for my son because it's two reasons. One, it's his birthday. Funny enough, last podcast was my wife and I's anniversary.
Anniversary, that's right.
Yeah, so
we keep podcasting with DJ on big days.
But you just have to, right? And it's amazing because once you put yourself out there, it's scary. You may get rejected, but you keep going. You keep putting yourself out there, and then next thing you know, your phone book is just full of friends, full of contacts, and you don't even realize it. I mean, it takes time, right? And it's a give and take. You have to give. Usually, initially, go out there and you give to the community, and then you get accepted in. That's kind of my story. And right now, I can't see
100%.
And I would even say that you're almost guaranteed to have some rejection on some level.
Oh yeah,
100%. The more you put yourself out there, it's a guarantee. But that's part of it. I mean, that's part of life.
You may find yourself rejecting. You may be the one doing the rejecting. You come across some folks sometimes. You're like, I misjudged that person. Maybe not a good friend. But I think maybe the key there is obviously connecting with folks with common interests and common goals, right? That's if you're finding that pillar of community through church, it's a great place to connect with folks where, your probability or likelihood of having common interest and shared values is much, much higher, right?
Absolutely.
So I always found, like with my son's baseball team, some of the parents, yes, some of the parents, hard no. It's like just it is what it is, and that's okay. But it's more to your point of putting yourself out there and being in the community, being active, and people tend to gravitate to the people that they connect with best. It just happens that way. It's always happened that way for our entire lives, right? Yes, since we were kids, we're learning how to traverse those social circles. So,
one plug, if you don't mind me putting out there, is that the military, whether you believe it or not, it grooms you to be a leader regardless of what your role is in the military.
Regardless.
Yep. The communities right now, doesn't matter where you live, the communities are in dire straits of leaders.
Yep.
Go out there, be a leader in your community.
Yeah.
Make a change for good, whatever that may be. Each community is different. Each community has a different need. Find that need, inject yourself in that. Help make life better for your neighbors and your friends. And that will also help you be more fulfilled in life. I mean, because I would venture to say a big majority of veterans may not be happy in the position that they're in at work because they've transitioned and didn't, they got stuck in a role and they've kind of just stayed there. How you get that fulfillment? Be a leader. Be a leader for good. So there's my
that's a good plug.
Schoolhouse rock for the day.
I interviewed 3 franchisors, potential franchisors. So when, my wife Kayla and I marched down this path, we landed on 3 potential franchisors, and we got through the final interview process with all 3 of them. And the one thing that they all had in common was their love and appreciation, and really their desire for military veterans.
Yeah.
Because they absolutely positively see the leadership capability and the confidence. They see it. We don't necessarily see it like other people do, but other people outside see it in ways that we can't even see it. We just think it's just like, yeah, whatever. We're maybe very self-critical. We're just very used to the environment. But when you get out and you actually do these interviews with these people, it is like night and day to them. And these people, these franchisors, they absolutely love military veterans. They love their capacity to lead. They love their confidence. They know that, they're going to work hard. They're always, going to be there on time, and all of those simple things, right?
Accountability too, right? Like if I'm a franchisor,
and
I want to make sure you're going to pay that fee.
Here's the best part. Here's the part that they really love is their ability to take a set of processes and procedures and execute them, which is what franchising is all about, and why I love it, because I don't have to worry about building something from scratch. Okay. Yeah. I would find a good franchise, somebody with a great model, with great numbers and all of that stuff, a proven set of processes and procedures, and they just hand them to me and I execute. It's so easy.
You just run it.
And they love that, because they get a lot of these franchisees that come in that that question everything. They want to push back. They want, they want to do it this way. Oh, I want to do it that. This is my store, so I want to kind of do this that way. You can't do that in the franchise world. But if
just follow the rules.
Oh my gosh, it's so easy. It's so easy. They literally got the whole thing figured out. All you got to do is just execute.
They built a business. Now you just have to do the same thing
they
did.
It's
crazy. It's crazy that people wouldn't do that.
Oh my gosh, they will love you for it. They will continue to approve for you to open more and more and more locations. And then the sky's the limit, man. So that's my franchise plug for you, by the way.
Love it. I want to go to Mike, because poor Mike has been having technical difficulties this entire show, and I want to see if we can get his piece of advice for the transition veteran, right? So just like one piece of golden advice that you would give to that person that's getting out as we look to kind of close down the show here in the next couple minutes.
He looks like he's in deep thought.
He's got something profound.
Yeah. Hey, guys, sorry about the connection issues, and I hope I'm going to be as quick as I can. I do apologize. Just to kind of like go back real quick on some things I might have missed. When I went to business school, I became the president of the Veterans Club at Chapel Hill, and basically we were told to consider ourselves diversity students when we showed up. And I'm about as diverse as a pine tree in a pine forest, right, by aesthetics. But in reality, as a veteran, you are very diverse, especially in the civilian workforce, and you need to embrace that. You need to understand that you are different. That is okay. That is good. And you need to utilize the talents that you've acquired through your military service to really benefit. You're not only yourself, but others who work and who are going to work with you in the civilian workforce. The other thing I would say, the only other piece of advice I would give, being in the military, I've seen folks who had who had
I feel so bad for him because he's having some real technical difficulties. So what we're gonna do is we'll take him out of the stream here for the remainder of the time. I feel bad.
It was a gem too. We missed out on a gem.
I know it. It is. You feel like it's like this great advice. I don't know. Like, you guys have kids. I don't know if you ever seen the Wreck-It Ralph, the second one, when he breaks the internet and they're asking, or maybe it's at the end of the first one. I can't remember now. But they're asking like, well, how'd you tame all these kids? You know, they adopt the kid racers, and hey, how'd you tame all these? Oh, it's easy. The secret to being a good parent is, and then like the race cars go by and you don't hear anything that they're saying. And then they like, the race cars are passed and they like continue to make a point. And then like when they get to the next like punchline of that point, like the race cars go by again. So you never actually hear what they're saying about being the perfect parent. That's what we just ran into, listeners, is Mike was about to drop some knowledge on how to make the perfect transition. And just unfortunately it cut out. The secret there is that there's no such thing as a perfect transition. You should always consider yourself a work in progress. To some of the stuff that he was talking about as far as being a diversity candidate, you know, that is absolutely 100% correct. There are some doors that will open for you because of your veteran status and put you in a place above a certain tranche of candidates for a job, right? So there are also within organizations, like in my company, there are business resource groups, right? So there's groups that are specifically for different diverse backgrounds, right? So there's a veterans group, there's a diversity and inclusion group, and I happen to be part of both of those. And it's another great way to meet people. It's another great way to lead within your four walls and to build relationships. I know we're running out of time. The one spot that we didn't touch on as far as building relationships is LinkedIn. I feel like LinkedIn is pretty pivotal in your transition. And it's one of those things that you can start doing while you're in and amassing your network and building connections and bridges while you're still in the military. And, you know, whatever amount of time you put into Reddit, whatever amount of time you put into Instagram or whatever name your flavor of social media, if you would then substitute that with LinkedIn, you would reap a handsome reward at the end of your military service. I can almost guarantee it, right? I don't want to put a guarantee stamp on it, but I'll do the almost guarantee, which is you get a 99% certainty that you'll reap some sort of reward from investing that time into your network.
Everybody should go ahead and consider LinkedIn as an absolute requirement as a job seeker, transitioning service member, period. I mean, before, when I was in the process of, building resumes and looking for, the next, career and all that stuff coming out and working on my LinkedIn. I mean, I don't know if this is too much, but I even considered literally hiring somebody to optimize my LinkedIn profile. I'm not kidding, because it's not just about, filling in the boxes and answering the questions and stuff like that. I'm telling you that your LinkedIn profile is essentially your resume. Okay. Yeah. So if you're a military member and you're, maybe you have a LinkedIn profile right now, I guarantee you that it's going to be listed with a bunch of assignments that you did with a lot of military jargon that frankly nobody understands. Okay. So when you get out and your next employer, who likely doesn't have any military experience, looks at that, they're going to say, I don't know what any of this means. So I have no idea if any of this translates to the job that this guy or gal is seeking.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe you don't necessarily need to hire somebody to optimize your LinkedIn profile. Although those services are available. And if that's something you're considering, I would say go for it. I think it's worth the money. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is you have to write your LinkedIn profile like you would your resume. Okay. You wouldn't write your resume like that. They talk about this in TAPS. You want to make sure that your resume is written in a way that that speaks to the employer in a language and using terminology that they understand. If you treat your LinkedIn profile like your resume, you'll be in good shape.
For sure. I'll jump in real quick and just being mindful of time. And I know I want to just get us out of here at everyone's hard stop. But the key with LinkedIn is, yes, you can hire someone. There are plenty of free resources out there as well. So don't feel like you have to hire someone. What I will encourage you to do is to begin to do that translation within each assignment that you have. Because if you wait to the end when you're getting out of the military and you're transitioning in civilian life, and then you start looking at your LinkedIn and your service history and how am I going to translate all this, your head's going to explode because it's going to feel so overwhelming and daunting. Talk to people in the industry that you want to go into and ask them how they translated those skills, right? I talked to people that were in the same branch of service that did a similar job. Hey, where does this tie in to what into the civilian life? How do I translate this into corporate speak? And there's guides out there. There's little, thesauruses for switching from military to civilian. Those things do exist. Those resources are out there, but absolutely put the time and effort in. I really appreciate the conversation today, gentlemen. I wish Mike had a better connection. He could have provided. He's got a ton of great insight and wisdom that he could have added to this show as well. We'll get him on the next one for sure. We'll make sure that he's on there. Listen, this is the Lazy Lab Hunting Club podcast, right? We do this twice a month. You can check Lazy Lab Hunting Club's YouTube channel where we release videos every Friday. This Friday will be a live Matt and Matt. So if you're listening to this, go back a week and check out the Matt and Matt episode that released on Friday, the 20th of May. If you are a big fan of the podcast, go ahead and give us a follow, give us a like, what's YouTube? It's subscribe and follow, or subscribe and hit the little bell so that you get the updates on when new episodes drop. But to make it easy for you, we've made it every Friday. I want to thank you guys so much for being part of the show. Thank you to the listener for listening and watching the show. If you're listening on traditional podcast avenues, go ahead and give us a like and follow, or leave us a review. Tell us how we're doing, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Thanks so much. Always go to Lazy Lab Hunting Club, lazylabhc.org to donate to the nonprofit, where more than 90 cents of every dollar goes directly into the programs that help veterans who are significantly injured and their family members. Thanks so much. Until next time, y'all stay safe and God bless.
Take it easy.